Hi, my name is Samuel, and I have been gaming for 28 years. Well, about to be 28. I've never really been into sports, or I can't even think of anything else because all I can think about is video games. From the moment I was handed a Game Boy, I was hooked. I loved everything about it. It was a portal to another world in the palm of my hands. I had always had game consoles at my house. A little bit before I was born, my mom actually purchased a Nintendo 64 for my dad for his birthday or Christmas. I don't remember exactly which one. And pretty soon I was born. I grew up with a Nintendo 64 with Yoshi's Story, Super Mario 64, random WWE game, except it wasn't called WWE. It was, I'll put it up on the screen, and a couple of other just random ass games. I remember as a child, I really enjoyed playing my Nintendo 64. I would play it, and, whenever my cousin would come over, we would play, Mario Party. She would bring over Mario Party or Mario Kart, and we'd, play together. We'd do, 4-player, split screen. I loved doing this kind of stuff. I wasn't, obsessed, or I wasn't, as hooked as I would soon be. The Game Boy Advance. The fact that I could play such advanced games in the palm of my hand, it completely changed everything. I could take it with me. The progress, all of my different portals, which would be the cartridges to these different worlds, I could carry in my bag and it would never have to leave me. Not to say I didn't like my consoles, but I definitely didn't have that attachment to them because, they will always be in that stagnant place. At the TV screen, in the living room, in the family room. They're never really going to move. And once I got my Game Boy Advance, it just changed everything because this was mine. This was not something I had to share. This was my own personal item. And something about that just really latched onto me. Basically, the fun does not end whenever I have to leave the house, like it would with a console. Anytime I was out when I was younger, I was always playing my Game Boy Advance in long car rides. But even though I loved my Game Boy and I was definitely becoming a gamer, I still did a lot of active things. When I was younger, we had a trampoline, and I kind of went crazy on that shit. And I'm not just saying I could do a flip. I was doing shit that probably could have gotten me killed, but because I was such a absolute professional, a entrepreneur, a protege, I don't know what to say after that. Basically what I'm saying is I think I was actually pretty good. I enjoyed jumping on the trampoline, doing flips, and overall being active, more flexible. I enjoyed stuff like acrobatics so much that I was going to do gymnastics. Unfortunately, I didn't end up doing that for other reasons besides video games. But one thing that I noticed is that games were always there. As long as I had them with me, I was very protective over my little Game Boy Advance bag until the fateful day. I remember me and my family, I believe we took a trip to Tennessee. I don't remember exactly what we were going to do, but I had my Game Boy with me, so hey, that's all that matters. I had to have been 6 or 8. I'm not gonna say the other thing. Yeah, I was somewhere around that age. At the hotel we were staying at, or the motel, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking. I unfortunately left my Game Boy bag behind. We were on the way back home, and I had realized it, and this pit of despair. My stomach dropped at the age of 8. I felt like I had basically lost my child. I was supposed to protect this. But unfortunately, I had forgotten it. Or maybe I thought it was in a bag already, with my parents' stuff. I don't know. But for some reason, I left it. I remember how bad I felt. I immediately was telling my parents, I was like, it's not here. It's not here. We were already home. I don't know why I didn't notice it on the way back, like on the drive back, because usually I would like, play my Game Boy in the back seat, but I don't know. Different circumstances. Again, I was 8. I don't really remember too much about it. I know that my Game Boy Advance went missing and we were in Tennessee. So that's all I remember really. My parents tried to call up to the hotel, talk with them, say, hey, we left something. Unfortunately, even though it was pretty soon, like, how long? It was probably like a 4-hour drive. When we got home, called them, it wasn't there. Or maybe it was there and someone had claimed it or taken it. This I think was the first time I had felt I was angry at myself more than anything. I was very, very upset that I had let this thing that is so precious to me vanish. I didn't have it with me at all times, and this one time that I maybe put it down or thought it was somewhere else, it's gone. It's completely gone now. And I that really stuck with me as a child. My parents were not wealthy when I was younger. We lived in a trailer. We lived in like a house that honestly we couldn't afford. I learned this after the fact. Basically a lot of financial troubles, but my parents were able to still get me the Game Boy Advance. They started looking how much it would be to buy a new Game Boy. What I didn't realize is that at this particular time, they had just released a new Game Boy. This was the Game Boy Advance SP. Now, what does SP stand for? Super Premium. The Game Boy Advance SP is literally just the Game Boy Advance. However, it is a clamshell device. You open it up and you can close it. It hides the screen and the controls, and you just have the outside. It made it easier to carry in my pocket. Also, it had a backlight. Something you may not know, but handhelds back whenever I was younger, luckily it wasn't that long because I was born in 98, so we started to get better shit pretty quickly. I wasn't like born, early 90s, but if you don't know, these handhelds used to not have backlights, especially like the Game Boys. I think most handhelds at the time, at least that I knew of at the time, I think like there's like a Sega Genesis or Sega Game Gear I don't know what that is. That was too expensive. That was out of my reach. I only knew of the Nintendo systems. I had literally this flashlight attachment for my original Game Boy Advance just for seeing the screen. You had to hold it in certain angles. You had to, like, depending on what the lighting situation is where you're playing it, you'd have the light on, you'd have the light off. It just depends. You had to kind of work with it. Anytime I got, like, a good, I was able to find the perfect spot for the Game Boy, and I could see it so perfectly. It felt so good, because if I hit a bump in the car, I'm gonna, like, tilt it, and then it's like, okay, I can't see shit now. So, yeah, the backlight thing, like, that never even popped into my head when I was younger. I just was like, we're just gonna have to use flashlights for the rest of our lives, for the future Game Boys. You're always gonna have to have a flashlight attachment. Also, something cool, and I believe the Game Boy SP even had stuff like this. So, Nintendo used to do the XLs, with the Nintendo DS XL, DSi XL, 3DS XL, all of those. The way that they used to XL is put a fucking mirror in front of the screen and say, boom, XL, which is amazing to think about, but it's kind of garbage. I actually still own one. I own a Game Boy Color with the magnifying glass and the lights. I am definitely glad we have backlights in our handhelds now. But yeah, the SP had a backlight. It was clamshelled. The screen couldn't get scratched. I didn't have to worry about putting it in a case. I could throw it in my pocket, and it was just perfectly portable. Immediately, first time I got it, first time I touched it, I was like, this is mine. This is peak. This is the best thing ever. I threw it in my pocket. Anytime I had that fucker in my pocket, it felt like I was capable of doing anything. You want to know why? Because at any moment, I could whip out the Game Boy and I could play Mario Kart Super Circuit just like that. And when I was done, I click the pause, I close it, boom. It was so fast. It was so seamless. I could not believe the Game Boy Advance SP was a real thing. Not to mention, now that I have a backlight, I can really appreciate how good the Game Boy Advance games look. I don't know exactly what the power was of the Game Boy compared to like the SNES. You know, I had the N64, so the Game Boy was like, okay, this is the portable, you know, this is the flat games. We don't get any 3D games, even though there are some that are kind of 3D, but we don't talk about those. I just fell in love with the form factor, the games, even though I didn't have like a shit ton of games, you know, because unfortunately, when I left my Game Boy Advance in Tennessee, I left all my games. I had like 5 or 6 games. One of them was like a Lego racing game. So I had to start from scratch. I remember the first game I got was Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I specifically got that one because of the box art. I had no idea what it was. I didn't watch any trailers for games. I didn't know about what was out. I only knew what was at Walmart or Best Buy. Or maybe not Best Buy. I think it was actually Circuit City. People don't know what Circuit City is. It's an ancient temple that used to hold electronics. It was before the Best Buy, I think. I don't know. But yeah, I picked it because of the box art. I thought the box art was dope. It's got Mario on it. It's got Donkey Kong on it. I love Mario and Donkey Kong. And this is them fighting? Is it going to be a game where they're punching each other? Is it going to be a game where, like, I don't even know. My anticipation, I don't know what to expect. I load up the game. It's a puzzle game. Well, it's a puzzle platformer game. I remember booting it up and realizing it was not a traditional platformer. At first being like, do I have to play through this little bit to get to the real Mario game? So I was like, okay, I gotta do these puzzles. Maybe I get some other levels later on in the future where I actually get like normal platforming levels and not have to do these puzzle things, deal with like carrying this key all the way to the keyhole or whatever. But as I was playing it, I started to enjoy the puzzles. They were getting more complex. There was more ways and mechanics being introduced to me. Pretty much all of the games that I owned and my parents owned were jump games, as I used to call them. You know, Yoshi's Story. What do you do in that? You jump. You jump and you eat fruit. And then whenever you eat all the fruit, he says... And Mario 64, which is like one of the greatest games ever made. What do you do? You jump. You fucking jump. You byahoo. You wahoo. So yeah, I was only really used to jump games. So when I was playing this puzzle jump game, where I was having to worry about other things besides platforming and like landing the jumps, being very careful, you know, dodging the enemies, you know, I was really good at platformers. This shit added new mechanics, dude. I had to get this fucking key all the way to that hole to move on to the next level. Now, here's some things you need to know. Whenever you're playing Mario vs. Donkey Kong, you have a time limit. You have 3 presents that you can collect, and they give you more points and more opportunities to get more lives. One of the main things that this game does is the buttons. They have like a lot of colored buttons. It activates the blocks that are that color, and all the other blocks go invisible, and you can walk through them, but you still see like the outlines. And this was a little mindfucky for me at the age of like 9 or 10, because I was colorblind. Honestly, it really didn't affect me that bad with this particular game, because all I'd have to do to figure out what button did what color is I just had to push it. It gave me a visual answer, so I just had to remember what button did what in case the colors looked off to me. Very simple game, but as you're progressing through it, it starts asking more of you, and I remember playing it. I was playing it for so long, and this was like over a year, dude. It took me forever to beat this game. I was definitely a special boy. I wasn't capable of figuring out them puzzles that fast. I think the point of this video, this may not even see the light of day. I'm just talking right now. I just needed to get this out. The Game Boy Advance SP is probably the most important game system for me. Like, it is the most impactful. The Game Boy Advance SP really sparked that passion for gaming, and it means a lot to me whenever I look back on Game Boy Advance games. That's gonna do it for this particular video. I want to talk about like some other shit, like my upbringing with games and the progression of games, and why I think that my experience, I feel like I was in the literal perfect era of gaming. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.